We'll call the meeting to order. Can I get a notice of the select board members who are here?
Pat Carlino.
Sean Renier.
David Consolati. Our first order of business is the minutes of the open meeting session of March 16th, 2021. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No discussion. I need your names and your ayes or nays.
Pat Carlino, aye.
Sean Renier, aye.
David Consolati, aye. Okay. We have no public hearings tonight. Our first order of business is Steve Broker's discussion regarding the gazebo park at the intersection of East Street and Bradley Street. Is Christopher, is he online?
I see a Steve here. Steve, you should be all set here. Just make sure you're unmuted.
I see he said hi.
Steve, it looks like your audio says it's just connecting now, so.
No,
um,
can't mic.
If you want to try calling in, we can come back to that after the other items.
What number would he call in at, Chris?
It is, hold on one second. Uh, 646-558-8656.
8656. Okay.
All right, well, why don't we come back to that when he gets on? Move forward with Matthew Fenton on a follow-up discussion about unionization of the fire workers and EMTs. Matthew on there.
Yes, I am.
Matthew, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. So state your case.
So just following up from last meeting on if there's any further questions that could be answered and see if we can try and vote on this tonight. Well, have you guys vote on this tonight?
Okay.
Matt.
Is there any
it's
questions
Pat.
that I can clarify?
It's
Hi,
Pat here.
Selectwoman
I
Carlino.
didn't get in touch with you before this meeting. I don't know, time got away from me, but I just want you to understand where my position is. I have nothing against unions or anybody, wanting to form a union. And I understand most firefighters, EMTs are in a union. But my only thought is I'm afraid to set a precedent because the other unions in town have gone through the more normal process than just coming in and getting us to say, yeah, okay, go ahead. Maybe I'm saying that in the wrong way, but so I have nothing against it, but I just think you should go through the normal channels.
I did do some investigating on that. This is actually the normal way to do it. Most unions in the Commonwealth, especially in the International Association of Firefighters, have gone through a voluntary recognition. Through conversation, a little investigating through some different union reps. This is what they told to me is that this is the normal way. And that's the information I have on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Pat?
Not right now, no.
Sean, do you have anything to add?
I don't at the moment.
Okay. So Matthew, what is the benefit to town to doing it this way?
So this way it would ensure that it goes through and we would post it for the next 20 days to see if anyone would have an objection to it. But it it gets it done right away, and there's no legal thing of going through the Department of Labor Relations or anything like that. You know, we with this town we're the last town department to go union here. I mean, the teachers are already, the DPW, the police department. So setting a precedent wouldn't much be there because we're the last town department that isn't union.
Well, not quite. We've got the general town who, when I was there, we talked about unionizing and what we could do, but we never did, never went through it. So there are all those other employees that also work for the town that might feel they have a stronger voice. Not as many, of course, but still.
Yep.
You
know, I know one of the questions from last week was, or the last meeting rather, not last week, of like the specialized teams. Obviously, that becomes down to the chief's delegation of who would get on the team. So it would never leave the entire town unprotected. That would be delegation of the chief on who he decides is fit to be on one of those teams. But the biggest benefit that has is being in the union allows all of us to get the training. So you have the firefighters that are trained in hazardous materials, trained in town, and at no cost to the town either. I mean, it's all state funded.
So what would the negativity be, the negative side of it, if we didn't do this for you and we just said, go ahead and apply how you normally would apply, go through, well, as far as I was concerned, our town, the other unions had gone through. What would be except for getting it done quicker, what would be the positives for the town and what would be the positives for the employees?
In terms of filing a different way, or
in terms of doing it the way you're asking us rather than filing the way the other unions filed?
I mean, the positives for the town is, what's that?
No, go ahead.
I mean, the positives for the town is that now we would be able to start the process of having people go to these trainings and have people readily available in the town for that. I think there really is, the only thing that is the negative effect would be for us of the cost if for some reason there was a cost associated with having to file the paperwork with the Department of Labor Relations. I mean, I feel like this way it is quicker, and it gets us on the ball rolling of the ultimate goal.
Okay.
I guess, Matt, and I've kind of spoken to you a little bit about this in the past. I'm not sure exactly what we're sort of voluntarily recognizing this. I'm not sure what we are voluntarily recognizing you to do. There's nothing. We don't have anything drafted up. No, union bylaws or anything like that. So that's kind of. So that's kind of my hesitation.
So other than I have the bylaws drafted up from us that I could send to you, and other than this would just be recognizing us for having the IFF and the PFFM being our collective bargaining unit. There's nothing else that comes with recognizing us with the union. All of that comes later on down the road. So if you're thinking that if you recognize us now, all of a sudden there's a contract started, that would all come down the road, and everything else would come down the road. It just because you recognize us tonight or whenever, it doesn't mean that now we're all of a sudden locked into some contract with crazy ass or anything like that. Like I said, we want to keep things just how we have them right now. And this is to protect on how we have our work environment and how we have it right now. I'm not saying that you guys or that anyone would ever try and change that, but it's just to ensure the protection that we have it and we have it right now.
Could I also ask, and I'm sorry if this was asked last time and I forgot, but
Okay.
was this talked over or mentioned or talked about at all with Chief Brown?
It has been, yes.
And
And
do you
I,
do you have a sense of where
what's
he's?
that?
Do you have a sense of where he is with the process?
I mean, he is, I believe, accepting with us, but he also has a stance to uphold with the town. So,
Right,
I don't want to be the one to speak for him. I believe he is accepting if this happens, but he does have a position that he has to stand with the town.
Pat, I can answer that question a little better. I spoke to Chief Brown, and he is fine either way. He only wants to make sure everybody knows that as you deal with things today, as things sit, you deal with them in one way. But if they unionize, they have rules and regulations that makes him have to deal with them in a different way. They are based on what the union rules are at that point in time. So he has no problem dealing with them, whether they stay as they are or whether they unionize. He's fine either way.
okay. Does anybody in the public have any thoughts on it? If we've got public here?
Don't see any.
I see one hand.
Chris, do we have one hand?
Yep, I'm just asked Matt Tyer to unmute.
Okay,
So, how you doing? Can everybody hear me?
that's Matt.
Yeah.
How are you? If Matt's good with this, I'd like to just help him answer this. I'm one of the full-time guys on the department as well.
Okay.
Sure.
So, Patty, to answer your question is really this was kind of a good faith measure to show the selectmen and everybody else that we want to work with you guys instead of kind of blindsiding you by going through the DLR. This is the recommended way to keep things on good terms and good faith and show you that we want to work with everybody. It's in no means to ruffle feathers or anything like that. We've progressed a lot in the last 4 years under Chief Brown and your administration, along with Chris and everybody else. And like Matt said, we just want to keep things the way they are right now, status quo. We're just looking for some protections for the future and stuff like that. I think the training, it would definitely allow us to reach out into things that would help the town. It would also create some more resources that are even available for the volunteers and for information that we could pass on and help train them. There's
You
other,
know, that was another question I had. So for purposes of creating a union, we're dealing with how many full-time employees? And would that union also cover non-full-time employees?
so from my experience, that's all what you put in the contract, but the contract would be for more for the 9 full-time employees.
There's 9.
It would not affect the volunteers in any way as far as operations go. The chief, I believe, has said that, has reassured that to people that it's still going to be business as usual as far as operations go. This is more for the full-time employees as far as, day-to-day stuff with them. There's other things too that it allows us to network. It allows us to reach out for resources through the assistance of the IAFF. It also provides some HR stuff that we wouldn't normally have more things lined up for first responders. Let's say we had a guy who was having trouble with PTSD or something. It would allow us resources to reach out to people who understand what first responders and things like that, or people like that are going through. So those are some of the benefits. What was your question about the negative aspects?
I guess, no, I think you answered everything there.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of the Zoom meetings.
I don't
Me
think
neither.
anybody is. Okay,
John, do you have anything else?
No.
All right, all I can say is that, I'm not against anybody wanting to unionize. We have a number of them already in town, so it is what it is. I don't see where we're gonna be stuck any differently than we are with anything else, so I would ask for a, motion, please.
I'll make a motion to voluntarily recognize the EMT firefighters union, provided that, we hash out, the details of the contract with the town.
I'll second that, Sean.
Any other discussion?
The only other question I would ask is this. If
Yes.
we said no tonight, you're gonna unionize anyways, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right, but I'll second Sean's motion.
So Christopher, is there anybody in the public who wants to speak?
I do not see anyone, Mr. Chair.
All right, so we have no other discussion. All those in favor, state your name.
Pat Carlino, aye.
John Renier, aye.
David Consolati, aye. Matthew, you got your wish.
Thank you very much, Selectman Consolati, Selectman Renier, and Selectman Carlino.
You're
All right.
welcome. Luck.
You have a good night.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
All
Mr.
right.
Chair, it looks like Steve is on with a phone. Would you like me to see if he's available?
Please.
Oh.
So Steve, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Steve, we can hear you.
I'm on because I'm not real. This is the first time I've ever done this, so you'll have to
You do
excuse
both.
my night, whatever. But there's a park up on near Bradley Park, up between East Street and Mill Street, with a gazebo, and there's a flag, and there's an old Civil War and World War I monument there. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes.
To my knowledge, it doesn't have a formal name to it. I've gone through this before with somebody else, but we ran into some problems with a guy that was nominated. But what I would like to do is name that park after David Bowers.
Okay.
Okay, he was a Bronze Star at Normandy, Purple Heart. I'm sure you
Dave, I
know
don't-
Dave Bauer.
Yeah, Steve, I don't have any problems with that at all. The only thing I would want to have done is someone check with the Veterans Association in Lee now to make sure it wasn't named before. And it just never,
Okay,
nothing ever got up there. You're probably 100% right, the name, but.
and
um,
with the town hall.
I'm trying to, well, you could call, Mr. Curtin, Jim Curtin. He's
Well, I
a-
already talked to. I'm part of VFW, and they endorse
Oh.
it.
Oh, so they're of the same mind that it doesn't have a formal name right now?
Well, I don't think so. It hasn't for as long as I've been around here.
Okay. Well, as I said, I'm okay with that as long as it already doesn't have a name. That's the only thing I would hate to,
Yeah. Don't do. I don't think it does. What it does is Bradley Street Park or whatever. But
yeah, okay. That was my only question.
Here's my thought. We'll have Cindy look into it minorly, see if there's any name she can find on it as it sits.
okay,
And then if there is none, I would approve this. Basically, unless there is a current name on it, then we can have that discussion later on. But we can have it looked into to see if there's any name. If there's no name, then I would approve this as it sits. If there is a name on it, then we'll just have to revisit it. Does that
Right.
work for you?
Mr. Chair, we
So
have
what-
one public
what-
member that would would like to speak as well. Claire Leahy, when you want to recognize her, just let me know.
What
She can
would
speak.
I need to do next?
I would ask my secretary to look and see if there's any listed name as it sits today.
Is somebody gonna get back with me or?
Yes. I will get back. with you.
Okay. Okay,
All right.
thank you
would
very much.
You're welcome, Steve. Can we recognize Claire Leahy, please?
Hi, I was just going to suggest to Steve that he might want to check with the Historical Commission because the Leahys have been, not our Leahys, but the Jim Leahy and Elizabeth Leahy up on Reservoir Road have been very involved with that little park. They would have a good feeling, I think, about who's been recognized if it was named after anybody else.
I spoke to Mo some years ago and he wasn't aware of being named. I'm pretty involved in that park too. We got the gazebo put up.
Okay. Okay,
You
thank
probably
you.
know my wife, Cindy Broker.
Mhm.
Okay.
Claire, you don't know.
Our kids play tennis.
Yeah.
Well, then it's okay with me.
Claire, you have no idea if it's been named after anybody else before this?
I'm pretty sure it has not.
That I know of.
You know who put the memorial in there? Did the veterans?
Yeah, the Bradley Street School was World War I
Oh,
veterans, and they put Civil War ones on there too. It hasn't been, I mean, that was 100 years ago.
right. Okay, well, let's just,
When I was a kid, it was just a field.
let's just do a little bit more checking before we rush into it to make sure.
Okay, I agree. So someone will get back with me on what I need to do next?
Yeah,
Yes.
David, Cindy.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll have it looked into. Claire, are you still there?
Do you need me for anything more?
No, Steve, we're all set.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, thank you.
Claire, you
you.
already have no recollection of anybody being named for that park?
No, I just heard the Leahys discussing it a lot and being very familiar with it. They were actually talking about whether or not to clean up the memorial, to take some of the dirt off of it, and there was a lot of discussion about that. So
Okay.
When was that?
just a few months ago, Jim Leahy was mentioning to me. So it's
Because there was
not a
this guy
big
from New
deal,
York
but
City there was this guy from New York City that hired somebody to clean it off at one time.
Okay.
He was a dentist or something.
I just know that there was some differences about whether it should be cleaned up, just left the way it is. So that's all.
Yeah.
And does the DPW take care of that now? I guess they do, but
Yeah,
like
they-
the other
Yeah.
parks. It's very nicely maintained.
Yes, DPW does take care of
You know, David, maybe we can have Cindy make a call to the Leahys to see if they have any background on it.
it. Yes, that's what my thoughts were. I asked Cindy to look into this and see if there's
Let's
anything.
go that extra step in case.
Preliminary, I have no problem with this, naming it for anyone, if it's not named already. So we'll look into it, see if there's a name on it, and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.
Aye.
All right, next we have John Graziano discussion of the initiation of a petition for zoning amendment for Woodland Road. Is John online, Christopher?
He is, John, you
am.
should be all set.
I am, thank you. I think respectfully, this is just an administrative thing for the selectmen. The process calls for a request to go to you guys, then you pass it on to the planning board, and the planning board kind of vets the request. I don't know what there's much to do tonight. I'm happy to discuss it if you want, but I'm not sure there's much to do.
Well, why don't you just explain to us what they're looking to do?
So this is a very small piece of property on Woodlawn. It backs up to the industrial zone. It's currently used to reprocess road debris, mostly for the town of Lee, to be honest. And it's been going on for years. And someone complained and filed a violation with the zoning board and went through a whole process. And there's building inspector agreed that it was okay because the use was municipal, but suggested that we petition the town to change it from CR to industrial which then could get a special permit to do what's being done there. So it's basically fixing what's going on there now. It's a very small piece of property.
So
All it does is change the zoning. It doesn't allow anything that's going on now by right. You still need a special permit to go forward. But that, again, would be down the road.
So if I remember correctly, this piece of property is already kind of U-shaped around by commercial zoning already?
That is correct. It backs up, the rear of it backs up into the zone, to the industrial zone. The zoning line actually comes down on that side of Woodlawn Road and leaves a space between Woodlawn Road and the back of this property where it sits, and then behind it's industrial.
John, under your understanding of it, this would not be considered spot zoning, would it?
No, I think you could do that. I think it's already in there. I think it's fine. It's for purpose. I mean, someone could argue that certainly, but I think it passes muster because of where it is. It's not like a polka dot in the middle of a box. It's already part of, although it's not technically part of the zone, it abuts the zone. So it's adding a piece to the zone.
Okay.
I think the spot zoning case, at least what I'm aware of, is when you pick an outlying property and say, okay, this is now going to be X zoning, but everything around it is something else. It sort of sticks out like a polka dot almost, versus this, which is not in the zone, but adjacent to the zone. So you're kind of increasing the zone. Basically, you zig the lag out. Everything on the east side of Woodlawn Road is a CR. The west side, it doesn't start, the zoning line doesn't run down the middle of the road. There's an area, and then the industrial zone starts. There's a corridor there, and this property falls in that corridor.
Okay.
But certainly
So-
the planning board would take that up if you passed it on along to them. That would be
So
their.
you need us to accept this request to belong to the planning board? Is
I
that?
need to refer to the planning board, yes, because I think the reason is because you control the warrant.
Correct.
So it has to go to you, then to the planning board, then to town meeting to be voted on.
Okay,
So it doesn't get onto the warrant unless you pass it along to the planning board, and that's the Mass General Laws procedure.
okay.
So can I get a motion?
I'll move, we accept the initiation of petition for zoning amendment on Woodland Road to pass along to the planning board for their review. And then they would pass it along to the zoning board if they so, depending on how they
I
vote.
think then they make a recommendation to town meeting, and town meeting votes on it because it's a zoning
Okay.
change.
Right.
I know how much fun the zoning amendments are at town meeting, so.
I know,
What's one more fun, right?
okay.
I'll second Patty's motion.
Discussion?
How do you do
Yep.
that?
Mr. Chair, we have one hand up, Claire Leahy.
Yes.
2 hands.
Hello. This is a scenic road with very strict prohibitions. This is a violation right now, what's been going on there. And it was supposed to be overseen by the planning board. And there should have been a 14-day hearing and then a second hearing according to the scenic road bylaws, which are overseen by Mass General Law. I just recently learned that it was a scenic road. I received a letter from the DPW that I asked for, listing all the scenic roads. It's one of like 8 or 9 in the town. And it was declared a scenic road so that we can maintain the rural nature of our town. It was considered one of the most scenic roads in the whole town, along with Tyringham Road, Church Street, goes on and on, even Washington Mountain Road, which is a road I live on right now. And I could not believe that I haven't known all these years. And it was up to the planning board to let us know, as they stated in this letter to all the agencies in town, like 10 years ago, and it hasn't been kept up, that this, to all the town agencies, that this needs to have special hearings if ever any changes are to be made on that road. Why the planning board has not overseen this, I think it was just through ignorance, because this that just sank into the background.
But all this does is send it to them to make them make a decision. So if we vote yes tonight, it just sends it to them, so they now have to make a decision on this. Whether
Yes,
it's.
I believe the statute says they have to have a public meeting. The planning board holds a public meeting on this.
Correct, not us, it's them.
That's correct.
And you understand that the rule on the public hearing for scenic roads is 2 hearings, one 14 days before anything is decided, and then another 7 days before the actual hearing. So I just can't believe the town has let this go all these years.
Mr. Chair, we have the planning board chairman, Matt Carlino, is here and has his hand up when you're ready to recognize him.
All right, well, let Mrs. Leahy finish first, and then we'll go to him.
Are you all finished? Or?
Claire, do you have anything else?
I would like to hear from Matt Carlino. Yes, please.
Okay, all right, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify that this property is not the planning board's oversight at this time. The building inspector is the enforcement officer. Until the property or the applicants come before the planning board, we have no enforcement or any right of enforcement. It all lies with the building inspector. Once,
Wait a minute,
not
building
true.
inspector, that's not true.
so, well, I'm sorry, I disagree, but we will hold a public hearing on this. And then we'll allow the public to speak and vote on it, and go through the process. But until it comes to us that way, we don't have any oversight. It all goes to the building inspector. So that's just, that's an enforcement policy. The zoning board has no enforcement.
Zoning board, no, but the planning board, yes.
Well,
The planning board is supposed to be overseeing this and making sure that it's
No, the
enforced.
planning board doesn't have any enforcement properties.
planning board does not have any oversight until an applicant comes to the planning board. Then we can have some say. The building department is the one that authorizes the use for the applicant. So you have to actually take up your complaints and enforcement with the building department, the building commissioner, BJ Church. And once this application comes to us from the select board, we will hold the necessary hearings to hear from the public, to hear from the applicants, and have a vote. And then if it does pass, it will be sent over to the select board to be added to the town warrant. And it's at the select board's discretion to add it to the warrant. Thank you, by the way, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
So
Thank
at
you.
the end of the day, if we pass this for now, it goes to the planning board and they can take it up and have public meetings. That is not in our purview to do at this point in time. So my estimation is that we need to pass this in order to send it along to have public discussion.
Okay, just one more comment.
Sure.
I think it's up to the planning board, from what I've read on this law, to let all the departments in town know, keep them updated on which roads are scenic, so that they know that the town's scenic road bylaw requires that any road repair, maintenance, or paving work, cutting or removal of trees, or tearing down, demolition, or destruction of stone walls on any of the above listed roads shall not take place without a public hearing with a statutory notice and prior written consent of the planning board before there's even a hearing. So this is according to Mass state law, and it's to protect us out here in the community. And I want to see that it's being done right. The planning board there's been no notice sent out to the public since 1994 on this code. It's in your code, in your town code, the scenic road, designated scenic roads, which is backed up by Mass state law to carry out the protections that we should have as citizens in the town to maintain the rural character of our town. And that's why this was passed. And to think that it's not even known to the people in town that I've lived here since 1976, and I've never been told that I live on a scenic road, and I see violations on my road and all up and down Woodland Road that have never been addressed by anybody. In 1994, the planning board sent out a notice to the State Department of Public Works, Berkshire Gas, Massachusetts Electric Company, Western Mass Electric Company, Northeast Utilities, and Dodge Construction, which probably doesn't even exist anymore, to let them know what can be and can't be done on these particular roads. And it comes down to the town's paving of the roads, even the paving of the roads, even changing the scenic view from these roads. So it's something that the town thought enough of in 1972 to set up these scenic roads, and it was taken care of up until 94. Nothing has been done since then, and I'm just flabbergasted by this. And I think it's more than just letting the planning board know. If we have a zoning change being suggested, that is criminal. That is wrong, absolutely against anything that is allowed. What Mr. Graziano is talking about is a parcel of land that is still in a conservation recreational area. And the planning board, I would like to know when the planning board approved that use of that land, which is definitely industrial, in a conservation recreational area. That's how it's zoned, conservation recreational. I don't care which side of the road it's on, but I know that property very well. And it should never have been desecrated like it has been by LB Construction. That is disgusting. And it's a backup to where we are expecting to have the town dump. And that is also a desecration, because that's going to come right down to the side of the road. So Dave Consolati, shake your head and say, oh, what's going on? But this is absolutely ridiculous right now. So Dave Carlino, I would like to know when you allowed and where that hearing is that was held about Garrity Construction, LB, taking that piece of parcel, clearing all the trees and filling it with all kinds of debris, which are an absolute eyesore on that road, which
Scenic road.
it was a beautiful road. Lane Construction for years and maintained a buffer from their sand pits right down to the road. And the buffer right now, that treed upland area, is where you're planning to put, you allowed the dump to go. But it's more than that. It's what's happened in the interim. It's what has happened in the last 3 years. And I would have been there complaining if I knew that that was a scenic road. And that's been one of the arguments all along. This is a scenic road. How can you be doing anything along that road? Matt Carlino, I would like to know if you could speak and tell me if you could at least let me know at some point when this was approved.
What was approved?
I'm ready to
approval of
respond.
the
I have my
zoning
hand up.
change from a zoning change that would have been needed.
My
He's
hand
the
is up.
planning board. When was the hearing held to allow this use as for industrial use of a conservation recreational area? When was
Claire,
that hearing? I never saw any hearing.
Claire,
I never heard of a hearing.
Claire, I can answer it for you. Claire, I can answer it for you if you're finished.
I never finished, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. So Claire, let me just state for the record that the planning board,
I'm sorry, I don't know who's
Matt.
speaking.
sorry, this is Matt Carlino,
Matt.
Claire.
Yeah. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Ed. So the the planning board has not seen this applicant for this property. The
What?
planning, Claire, let me just finish. The planning board can't go out and do anything without an applicant coming to the board. So the enforcement officer is our building commissioner. The building commissioner enforces all building permits and et cetera. And until an applicant presents a site plan to us, we cannot take a vote on anything. We are not the enforcement. We review proposals and vote on them. This proposal, I think what you're frustrated with is that the property is being used already and the applicant has to still come to the planning board.
I believe it's shut down though, isn't it, Matt?
I'm not really sure.
I believe it's shut down at the moment.
So I think what Attorney Graziano is,
Effective as of yesterday.
okay, well, I think what Attorney Graziano is presenting is for the applicant to come forward with, to the planning board and get the, possibly get a zoning change approved to be able to go to town meeting to be voted on by the reps. So at our meeting, when we hold the public hearing, you will be, of course, part of the public and you can come and give your opinion, and that's when the hearing will be. But we did not approve this use. And I'm not saying we will change the zoning or not change the zoning. We have to hear the applicant's case. So, but the planning board has not heard this applicant yet. I just want to clarify that. The building commissioner is the enforcement officer. So really you have to contact the building department.
I have read the minutes of your planning board meetings, and in the minutes, you were saying that you're waiting to hear from the building commissioner on this piece of property. And then later on, one of your members asked about what had happened with this property, because one of your members, Peter Bloom, had been asking about what was going on Woodland Road, and there was never an answer from your planning board. I've read all the minutes. There's nothing there
Yep.
that it was ever resolved, that the building commissioner ever came to you and let you know what was going on. This is something that has slipped through the cracks and in a way that
As
is
usual.
really, really sad to see that our town boards are not looking out for us better than this. This is,
Well, I do take
Maybe I
exception.
can help clear this up. On
Yeah.
July 27th, the building commissioner decided the use was not in violation of the zoning bylaws, okay?
No, you gotta be kidding.
how can, it's industrial. He's got an industrial use going there in a conservation recreational zone. It's zoned conservation recreational. There should have been a hearing on that before he was ever allowed to do this. He should be charged for $400, $300 for every tree he took down, every single tree. That's the law. He should be reinstating everything on that land. It should be brought back to the way it was. He has destroyed a beautiful scenic road, and the planning board and the building commissioner have ignored it.
Again, Claire, I just want to, we have no purview in that, just so you know, that's the way, that's not the way it works. I'm sorry, but that, I know you don't want to hear that, but
No,
that's, not-
I've heard it. I hear what you're saying, and I have researched all this, and I know that's not true, that
All
it
right,
is
well-
your
well,
responsibility.
well, then you can talk to our town council, and because that's where we were advised that if the applicant does not come in front of the planning board, we cannot have a say on any applicant in the town of Lee. It has to be handled through the building commissioner. And so,
Which it was.
which it was, whether you agree with it or not, it was handled. So now I think really once we hold the public hearing, what you're saying tonight is what you probably will say at the public hearing, and you'll have your right to talk to the planning board, and the planning board will have its process.
Correct. The thing before the selectmen now is to move the request onto the planning board. The planning board is the one that holds the public hearing on this, and that's where I think this conversation and discussion would be probably most
Yes.
appropriate at that level.
Yes.
What about the zoning board? When does it go before the zoning board?
Well, we are, the planning board is the zoning board, and that's where this proposal will be. And as soon as we get it, we'll set up a public hearing schedule and send out notices and do all the proper postings so that the public has a right to be heard before it's voted on.
Problem is the work is going on there.
I
Continues.
have to think that it's the town's job to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen. And is it up to us residents to go walking around and seeing what's going on in town and coming in to make complaints about what's happening? I think there's got to be a little more oversight. Thank you.
I think there was a complaint, and then the building commissioner reviewed it and said the use going on there is proper or legal, and so that's
Great.
where it was. You may disagree with that, but that was the process, and that's the process it did go through.
John, without question, I totally disagree with it.
With building commissioner's decision.
With absolutely.
Why
It's-
would the
it's-
building?
It's a desecration of the property. And here it was, it's designed as a scenic road. And all of a sudden, of course, we got the Hells Angels on the other side, but across the street, we had a house and a barn. And all of a sudden, we've got a full sand bed going full speed in there. And you tell me that? Give me a break.
Well,
Mr. Chair, we have one more hand up from Bob Jones.
Okay.
Thank you. Bob Jones, 150 Graylock Street in Lee. I have more questions than I do anything else, but also a few comments because I'm not totally familiar with the site itself. But it seems to me if in fact there was a Scenic Roads Act implemented in the 1970s and then revisited in 1994, if my understanding is correct, then the Leahy's point is well taken. And if in the interim, there was a commercial or industrial business started in that area, it seems to me that whoever the building inspector was, and I don't know personally any of the building inspectors who were involved in this, if in fact it wasn't acted upon, if in fact the building inspector didn't look into it and say, well, there's a Scenic Roads Act, perhaps there's a violation, and it wasn't brought forward, then that's a problem for the town. And it seems now, years after the fact, maybe 25 years later, all of a sudden you have a piece of property, whether it backs up to an industrial use or not, it's still on a scenic road. Now we're looking to move it into that industrial use. And I understand the process. I understand that the selectmen tonight want to move it to the planning board, and the planning board will make a recommendation, and ultimately it will go to town meeting. And if I'm not mistaken, will it require 2/3 of the town meeting, 2/3 vote to change the zoning law, or to incorporate that into the industrial side? Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so it just seems to me, as this process goes on, as the conversation carries on, that if in fact this piece of property that was utilized as an industrial use was in fact in violation of the Scenic Roads Act, that's a problem. And we're now trying to close the barn door after the horse got out. And while ultimately it will go to town meeting for 2/3 majority vote, I think it's very, very important. The Leahy's point is very well taken, that there's been a violation that's been going on for quite some time, and that has to be addressed at the same time. I personally would be opposed to changing the zoning for this one piece of property simply because it was used, if in fact it was in violation all along.
Well, Bob, that's fine, but that's not our decision. What
I
it is,
understand.
it has to
I-
go, our movement is to get it to the planning board so they can have a meeting and a vote and a public hearing on it. And then if they pass it, it goes to the town and it gets voted on that. What you're talking about is just circles about what we should be doing, which is correct. What we're supposed to be doing right now is to move this ahead so that it can have the discussion and be
I-
talked about and be done. So we can spend a whole hour and a half talking about this, but the next move that needs to be done is to move it to the planning board so that it can be voted on properly and then either canceled there or moved on to town meeting, which can be canceled or approved at that point in time.
Well, I'm very clear about that, and everything that you've just said is absolutely accurate. But what we're talking, we're at a selectmen's meeting and we're discussing the history of this property, how it's going to move forward, and where we're actually going to end up being. And I think it's very important that people be heard, and that
Everybody has been.
that there be an accurate accounting of where we got to this place. I don't disagree with you sending it to the planning board, who will simply make a recommendation, and then ultimately it will end up at town meeting where this discussion will take place again. But we're in a selectmen's meeting, it's a public forum, and everything the ladies have said that I can see is very, very accurate. And I don't disagree
with that. But
Right.
I don't know what happened in 1994. I don't know what happened in 1972.
Well, I can
So-
tell you that I've seen the documentation from 1994, and that's what did happen. And I understand you wanting to move it on. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just trying to say a statement of fact. What the ladies are saying is accurate.
And nobody is saying they aren't accurate.
No,
All
I'm
we're saying is that the only way to go forward with this in a proper manner is to move it forward so we can have the proper discussion and do it in a proper legal manner.
agreed. And I'm not questioning. I mean, I know you're not saying that it's not what they're saying is not accurate. I'm sort of seconding what the Leahys are saying.
And we agree.
Thank you.
And I would just like to say that if and when we pass this along to the planning board, I think they now have enough notice that someone will look into the Scenic Bylaw Roads Act. It's in our bylaws, and find out. And the only question I have is that, Claire, 1994 may have been when the last road was named. And we may not have had another road since then, so. But I'm sure the planning board will look into it. You can take it under consideration and see what's going on with that. But it has to get there first.
Mr. Chair, I see one more hand raised. If Peg Byron wants to speak.
Okay, let's recognize Peg.
Okay, Peg, you just need to unmute.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I will say, Claire and anyone else, Ed, Bob, we have had, and Matt's here too, so he could corroborate this with me. We have had instances where people have asked about roads being scenic or not. So we haven't abandoned, I don't want anybody to think we've abandoned the roads. I understand what has happened here. I've heard John Graziano and I understand what has happened. And I think the frustrating part is for a lot of people, you have to maybe put the complaint in writing to the building commissioner, and you may not know even that your road was scenic, which is unfortunate, because even this couple of years ago now, we had an issue with the scenic bylaw, and we had a number of people asking about the scenic roads, and we told them which roads were scenic and things like that. So I understand the frustration of the Leahys or anyone else that didn't realize we had this scenic road bylaw. Because a lot of people have come to us over the years and asked is such and such a scenic road? Is Church Street a scenic road? Is Devon Road a scenic road? And they are. So I guess I just want you to realize we haven't abandoned the scenic roads. But as you say, you have that thing where we should have probably put more notices out to the different boards about the scenic roads. That's a very distinct possibility that we certainly should work on. So thank you. Thank you.
Pat, can I ask you a question quick?
Me?
Yes,
Yes, sure.
I'm sure, Peg.
I'm sorry. I gotta turn on my lights here. Everything. Yes, go ahead, David.
As we talk about scenic roads, is there an issue with, the trees along the edges of these roads are dying? They're dying all over town. You see the telephone company and the electric company tearing them all down.
Yes.
Is that an issue with scenic roads too, or no?
I'd have to look at the bylaws, but I think it is. I think it is, unfortunately.
I mean,
Where
as you go along, you can see the trees that were 50, 75 years old are dying.
Yes.
And, they're being cut back. And I didn't know if that was an issue with it as well.
To be honest, David, I don't know for sure. I know that the scenic road, we have invoked that at different times. But I don't know about that specifically, but there are certain requirements, yes, that definitely go along with it. And it was passed, and actually, I think Bob Birch was on one of the committees that passed it at one particular time. And the roads are quite lovely that have been deemed scenic roads. They're quite lovely. So I'm sorry I can't help you, David, but I can look,
Okay.
we'll look it up and get to you.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
No problem. Anyone else?
Peg, may I say one thing to you? Take
Oh.
a ride down Woodland Road
I
right now,
will.
anytime this week, and look at the desecration of that road, and you'll see what we're talking about.
I have been over there and I've noticed that myself. So
And it
I
also-
understand your frustration, especially where you're a neighbor. So neighbors have, when you're a neighbor of something, it really does affect you more than it does, say, where I live. It affects all of us, but yes.
I
Thank you.
respectfully would suggest to you that it was designed as a scenic road, or designated as a scenic road,
Yes, it was.
for the entire town, county, and state, or Commonwealth. And it has been desecrated, and nobody seems to be standing up and saying, how did this happen? And this road is now nothing but a gravel pit
Mm,
instead of a scenic highway.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure you guys are gonna come if you guys pass it on to us. Which I hope you do.
It's the only proper way to do this, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see
Anyone
no
else?
other hands, Mr. Chair.
Okay, can I get a motion from someone on initiation of position for zoning amendment to Woodland Road to send it on to the planning board?
So moved.
Second.
I need your names, please.
Pat Carlino.
Sean Renier, second.
David Consolati, aye.
Sean Renier, aye.
Pat Carlino, I thought I did, sorry.
All right, we're moving on. Town meeting schedule, COVID-19 discussion. I know Chris can't be here for this. So do you have any thoughts on it? You can weigh in, but I don't know at the moment what we're actually gonna be able to do or not do. whether it's gonna be at the Z, or whether it's gonna be outside on a football field or wherever else.
Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully request we put this off till our next meeting in 2 weeks, and possibly between now and then, we can find out what's going on, what other towns are doing, and how, if it's as bad as it was last year, and Chris probably has some ideas on how we can hold it. But it's up to you.
Oh, it's just a matter of, next meeting, we're coming up on town meeting time, right after that. So it's just an issue of where we intend to hold it. And I realize that's a difficult discussion about coronavirus and all the rest of it, but last town meeting was hard.
We're talking about town meeting itself,
Yes.
not the election.
No, nope, town meeting.
Looking at the schedule right now, it's tentatively May 13th.
That's why I'd like to ask, give it 2 weeks, because worst case scenario, if we know in 2 weeks that recommendations are being made not to have town meeting like we normally would have town meetings, we could possibly move it towards the end of May, still not go too much in the summer, and have time to plan for it. That was my only,
A couple of towns have moved theirs to June,
yeah,
only because they can do it outside at that point in time with
yeah,
sure decision of weathers.
yeah.
So, but again, it's a discussion as whether we have it in the Z or we don't. And it's, I understand your 2-week consideration. So I guess in 2 weeks, we can decide whether we postpone it and
Right.
Go forward from there, or whether we decide to have it at the scheduled time and work from that.
Yeah, I also would feel more comfortable hearing from Chris, his thoughts on it too, and we haven't discussed this, so.
I just gave them to you. This is what his thoughts were. I saw talk this evening.
Okay. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Sean, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't think, obviously last town meeting wasn't ideal. I don't think there would be a huge, a lot of support to do another town meeting like that. So maybe I'm kind of the mind to support an outdoor option. But yet those are just my initial thoughts.
Okay.
Which may mean pushing, postponing it, but we certainly still have time to do that.
Right. Could I ask Chris Britton a question?
Sure.
Go ahead,
Since he's
Pat.
here? I'm just wondering your thoughts with the election. Are you feeling comfortable enough to do the election on the right date like you did last year?
Yeah, I see no issues holding the election as scheduled. We did several elections through COVID, and we have everything set up at Crossway to continue that, just as we did with the presidential election. So
Yeah,
I don't see any reason we need to do that. There is also the legislature did approve an extension of all elections up till the end of June, that we can still have the no excuse vote by mail. So anyone taking COVID precautions can get a mail-in ballot. The form's available on our website, and there's copies in the entryway to town hall as well, or they can give me a call and I can get it to them by mail or email as well. So,
Okay.
so that still is in place.
okay, I just was checking on your schedule, all right. So,
you,
if-
Patty.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, if we could just put off that discussion until the 20th, is that our next meeting?
Yes. April 20th, yes.
Okay,
Okay, I'm fine with that. Next, Kathy Hall, Lee Youth Commission. Is Kathy online, Chris?
She is. You're all set, Kathy.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Kath.
Hi, everybody. Well, I have a couple of things to just report, but I would like to hold off on any presentation until your April 20th meeting. I
Okay.
just want to say that I have sent you, the select board, the draft of our business plan, a potential plan, which has 3 different scenarios of how it's going to be set up. I'm talking about the potential community center and the monies and all of that. And it's very well done. Randy Kinnis helped us with that because that's part of what he does for the YMCA. So he was more than happy to help with that. We also have the demographic profile that blends in with the business plan. And I'd like to show how that connection is made. But I'd like to hold off for a presentation on that. The cameras at the athletic field, huge thank you to Mike Klein for getting that all installed. There are 4 cameras now at the Lee Athletic Field. Camera 1 focuses in on the basketball court and the tennis courts. Camera 2, if I'm not mistaken, is, well, let's say it's the pavilion. There's a camera under the pavilion.
Right.
Camera number 3, again, the numbers might be mixed up, is the bocce court and the skateboard park. And camera number 4 is all of the view of the children's playground, the 5 through 12 playground, the merry-go-round, and the new fitness area. So it's wonderful. Every aspect of that park is able to be viewed via camera, and the camera is set up directly to the police department. All the members of the police department have the ability to access those cameras to see if there's any mischievous behavior or hopefully not any type of vandalism. So we're very, very happy for that. We also, and I haven't sent this yet to you because I already sent you the demographic profile and the business plan, but we also have the site plan for Stockbridge Road of what needs to be done for the infrastructure for that. Yesterday, some people from our subcommittee and from the commission attended a workshop that was called Strategies for Fundraising. It was absolutely spectacular. We have so much information of how we're going to raise money for this huge endeavor of a community center. We are asking people to please come forward and help us. We do have a Zoom meeting Monday, April 12th. And if people would like to just come and see what's going on and see if they can help us with this huge project, that would be wonderful. The information is on the town's website. And that's it, unless you have questions for me.
I do.
Pardon?
Go ahead, Sean.
Nope, I didn't have anything to say.
Pat?
Kathy, I did receive the demographic profile, but I didn't receive anything else. When was that sent, or it's not?
I'm sorry. I sent the business plan probably 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I thought
it was a while back. I didn't send it today. I had sent it previously.
And that's the one that you presented at your meeting a couple of weeks ago. Randy Kinnis presented it.
I don't know. I don't think Randy did that. No, I think that particular week I was absent from your meeting. So I don't think I presented it to the select board. I just sent the information to you.
I saw the demographic as well, but I didn't see the business plan.
I don't think we got a business plan.
I'll resend it.
Yeah,
I'll resend it.
Nor did we get a plan.
No, that I didn't send.
Okay.
But I will resend the business plan, and I'll send you the site plan for Stockbridge Road.
Okay.
Is that all, Kath?
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
All right, we have no pending business. From the town administrator's side, there are revenue and expense reports for period ending March 31st on our desks. We're going to have a budget discussion. The finance committee and the others are already discussing it, and it seems to be going well. So once that comes in, we'll have that discussion. Next, we have public comments. Does anyone want to have a public comment? Christopher?
Yeah, we have Eric Williams.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eric.
Hello, thank you. I'm here today as chairman, or actually as chief operating officer of Canada Provisions. And I'm here tonight to, because I've been having a little bit of frustration in getting any response from the town. Specifically, starting on January 8th, I've been attempting to communicate or get some sort of communication back from the town on specific requests that are, I'm sorry?
What requests are they?
So with our annual license renewal application, and as part of that and submitting with the Cannabis Control Commission, we've asked for documentation of any costs, either actual or anticipated, associated with the operation of our retail dispensary.
From the town?
Yep.
Okay.
I've reached out with several emails, several phone calls. I've left notes on doors. I can't get a response back.
Okay.
And so this is my latest attempt to try to get some response from the town to that request.
Okay. So you want a cost of anything that came from the town that the town occurred?
Yes, this is a standard request that goes with community impact fee and our host community agreement. It's documentation of any costs, either actual or anticipated, associated with the operation of our retail dispensary.
Okay.
What did I do?
Cass, you're on the wrong one. Can we get back to Eric, Chris, please?
Yeah, we're all set now. Kathy's muted.
Okay. All right. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Oh, I'm just waiting for a minute. All right. So you want to see if, whether it's the police department, DPW, which I assume would be the only ones we have to deal with, whether you have actual or anticipated costs from any of our departments.
Correct. And this is the documentation again for the community impact fee as required by the state, and is required for our licensure for the CCC.
Okay. And when do you need this by?
Well, we've already had our license renewal. That's already taken place. So the request is sort of outstanding. They didn't hold up our license renewal.
Okay.
Because of that, I just want to be clear, and you know, this being a public hearing and also being a citizen here in town, and I think a good and involved one, I really need to express disappointment that I've literally called and written and at multiple offices, literally left notes on doors without a response. And it's frankly, it's just unacceptable.
I understand your unhappiness. This is the first I've heard about it, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I've reached out. I don't have your personal contact information, but I've reached out to others as well. And again, not gotten a response at all.
Okay.
Truly disappointing.
Well, I will make a couple of phone calls tomorrow and see whatever. I can't imagine that we have much outstanding about your business.
No, I would not expect that either. And particularly, I know you mentioned police details. We pay for all of those when we had them.
Right. So I don't think we did anything extraordinary. It's a state road, so they did your sidewalks. I can't imagine DPW has much to deal with you. And like you said, you pay for your own police details. So I can't believe the police department has money. But I will check tomorrow, and I will have them get a hold of you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Dave, may I say something real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, no, Eric, this is Chris, Chris Britton, the town clerk. I haven't received anything from this office as of any request, but if you want to give me a call tomorrow, I'm in every day from 8:30 to 4. I'll be more than happy to get it to the right department for you. At 243-5505. So.
Great. Happy to have another contact. I'd be happy to include you on my communications moving forward.
Very good. Sean or Patty, you have anything to add?
Oh, I'd like to say something.
Nope. Okay, Kath.
All right, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to ask, and I don't mean to tell anybody how to run your business or whatever, but because I'm a chair of one of the commissions, I make sure I study Robert's Rules of Order. And even though you want everybody to speak and have a voice and all that, you still can call a point of order and demand that people stick to the topic. I felt tonight that there were too many voices all over the place that went beyond the scope of what one individual was asking, and that was to just bring their ideas to the planning board. And we got all kinds of comments that honestly should have just been put forth at a different meeting, not at this particular meeting. But that's my 2 cents. And I do encourage people to be strong enough to say, we need to stay on point because it just gets too cumbersome. But that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go back again to Eric, please?
I didn't have anything else to say.
Okay, you have nothing else? Okay.
No.
Patty or Sean, do you have anything to add with Eric's comments?
I do.
Yeah.
One other thing, not tonight, but I just would like to have it on the agenda for our next meeting. We need to decide about the Memorial Day parade because I've had a call. It's coming up, of course, and before we know it, it'll be here. And so I thought, well, if the question came in, I'd bring it up tonight. I personally would like to send the question over to Jim Willis at the Health Department and get his thought on a Memorial Day parade. If we should have it, if we shouldn't, or if we might want to think about doing something like we did last year in the park on a smaller nature. But I just think we need to get some guidance from the Health Department. If you're all right with that.
No, I'm fine with that, Pat. My mind is that we probably shouldn't do it. I mean, we have uptakes all around the state, and I would hate to be presiding over something that made it worse.
I know.
As much as I'd like to have it, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought I'd bring it up, and let's make a decision next time around, next meeting.
Okay. Yep.
And the second thing is, did you by any chance receive a thank you note tonight to read at our meeting?
No, I did not.
From David Carlino?
No.
Dave, I put it on your desk upstairs. If you didn't go up there, you might not have
I
gotten
probably
it.
just didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
Well, may I read it?
Certainly.
Okay. Dear members of the Select Board and Mr. Ketchum, thank you so much for approving 23 Chief Rusa Way. On March 19th, we had a small ceremony to dedicate the road to Chief Rusa. His family, friends, and other guests attended the ceremony. I think we made Chief Rusa and his family proud. Mr. Filio from LMHS filmed the event, and it will be aired on CTSB soon. Thank you again for your support. Sincerely, David Carlino. So if anybody's interested that would like to see it, just Google on CTSB and look at the schedule, and they'll have it on there whenever they're going to show it.
He's a very nice young man, Pat. You should be very proud of him.
We are. Thank you. And that's all I got.
Okay. Sean, you got anything?
Nope, I don't.
All right. Well, our next regular meeting is on April 20th, 2021. Can I get a motion to adjourn with your name, please?
So move, Pat Carlino.
Second, Sean Renier.
David Consolati, aye. So we got a second and a motion, make a movement to adjourn.
Okay.
All right, everybody have a good night. Thank you. We'll see you on the 20th.
You too.
Bye.